So it's the morning after the party, and we're right back here once again. We had a great time yesterday celebrating Jasiri's 1-year anniversary. Our special anniversary guest, Maraji, was an absolute delight and a great way for us to celebrate a milestone. She was giving us skin, and in Lola's voice, she's very demure, right, guys? She's very demure. She told us she loves K-dramas. A little bit says she loves Korean skincare. Hey, listen, I'm looking at somebody that's sitting opposite me right now. I didn't call names, but you know when you talk about skincare, we know that some people have been
investing.
Wow. You see? She took the words right out of her mouth.
We've been investing. So I actually got into...
Who is we?
Okay, sorry. Myself. I actually studied, but when I found out, so they have this 12-step thing. First of all, I was like, how am I going to be doing 12 steps at night? So I'm going to do like 10 steps in the morning. So then I started looking around.
So just in case she comes late now.
No, it's not about the skin, but we love it anyway. But they're amended, but man, their products are some of the best products in the world. They have hydrating and moisturizing down to a
So that works for every skin type?
That 10-step works for every skin type. You just adjust what the specific products are along the line. But you don't have to do 10. These days,
so just give us like a snippet. Because when you say 10 steps, guys,
so I didn't know that I needed to be double cleansing before. You know, you just wash once and you think you're done. You're not done, especially as people who wear makeup every day.
Yeah.
So double cleanse with an oil cleanser because that's what works to break down makeup. And then you cleanse using a cleanser of your specific type. That's step 2, right? Then you tone. So they do serums and things. That's why I say you can remove a bit of the steps. You don't have to do 12 steps. Then you tone with the toner that is specific to your skin type. Then you treat. Hello, have you treated? Then if you have any skin concerns, maybe you have hyperpigmentation, you're having a breakout, you have melasma, you treat. Then that's at like, I think 5, right? Then you can do some serums, and then the serums...
So I cleanse, I double cleanse, I tone, I moisturize, and then
moisturize is last. You're still
sunscreen comes after.
That's I was talking about
night.
Do you do sunscreen at night?
Okay, no, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That at night I cleanse, double cleanse, tone, moisturize, and sleep.
It's very mathematical and quantitative analysis.
But it works. Have you seen their skin?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Their skin is different from our skin.
No, they have oily people too.
Skin girl.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, does that work now? Does it go
across board?
Yeah.
It does. It really does. Like all my sunscreens for the past 2.5 years have been Korean sunscreens.
So how long does it take?
I don't do 12 steps. Am I crazy?
No, because
maybe I'll try. But I don't know where to get them.
To this,
where to get original? Okay.
I'll hook you up.
Maybe I'll try.
How does Korea now work for Africans?
No, they've tested. Catherine, can you see my skin? Trust the process.
I know your skin has been skinny. You know that. Yes. Okay, so you know, I'm Nigerian. You know, want to know how many what's the time frame for us to see results?
About 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, you start seeing results. Wow. All of you using sunscreen that use a drop of sunscreen, did you not see that they say you should be using 2 fingers worth of sunscreen? I looked at them the first time. I said, my sunscreen will finish in 2 weeks.
It's not just about finishing. You will not start looking like a ghost.
For me, I think probably because I lean more towards organic things. I use banana peels. I just use banana. I tell you.
No, it has I think it's lactic acid inside.
So I do that. I use banana peels on my face for 10 to 15 minutes before I wash it off.
Does chin chin work for anything?
Chin chin.
I eat a lot of it.
What's your bank account? Since you want to be asking foolish questions on a Thursday morning. But ladies, even after we do all of that, we just want to say once again a very big thank you to all of those who made 1 year of Jasiri possible. We have a crew that you rarely see, those behind the scenes, our cameramen, our STOs, our audio people, those in the PCR, our makeup artists who keep us looking just, brown skin girl out. Definitely. The video editors.
I want to thank myself in that regard.
The video editors, the graphics people, our digital team who make sure you get the cuts of the show as soon as it's ready. And of course, so many other commercials selling the show for us as well. Our MD, who's been supported from the very first episode. We do not sit here alone. You might see us sitting here alone, but behind us is an absolute army.
It takes a village.
It takes a village, and we have that village behind us, and we're very appreciative of everything that they do for us. All right? Are we good?
Yes, we are.
I see them.
And thank you to that cake yesterday. Oh, my God.
I binged. Man, I have not eaten cake like that in a while.
I think That's the thing with that cake. That cake just got you eating. You didn't think you had the stomach for, but it just kind of kept opening up layers in your tummy that you just kept wanting
I mean,
to
now
take more.
that yesterday's gone, today's a new day. I want to report them to you.
Because I know when I came back, that
Especially
cake had been chopped.
peculiar. I'm sorry, but
That cake had been chopped in a way. I looked at the center.
Cake.
No.
And
They
then,
had eaten it before I came back, and then still add.
and then unfortunately, Rosemary came in. I was like, oh, this cake, I peculiar gladly. Do you want it? And so she used Mary as cover up, but bro, peculiar. I'm sorry, I just
So
had
we kept peeling it off. Like
I
it was
noticed.
no tea. There was no DOP. They were very thin slices. We were very careful.
It's a lie.
No, the slices. Listen,
Come and see
it's
mathematics.
a lie.
They were like, okay, no, cut this part.
Because
Then
when
cover
I
it up with
finally
this
came
part.
back, somebody had entered the cake.
It was
salty.
deep. You guys did not even
that
try.
the upper layer
You were just, it's like you were dipping your fangs
this
into
is
it.
where I miss Lolo. Lolo would have entered you now.
I don't know how to keep a secret, bro.
No, it was. We just peeled it off. Peculiar and I. We just peeled. We layered it.
This is my issue with you.
Why?
If you do a crime with somebody else, why are you dragging somebody else's
No,
name?
because
I've always said, my friends know, if we do something together, if the need to confess ever arises, no mention my name, not
There
so
was a
If I
video
want to
that
confess,
I
I will
saw.
confess.
There's a video I saw on social. I think it was trending one time. Two people were running from the police, and then one of them hid very well, like I think inside the bush, and the other one hid like very vaguely. So they found him, and the guy was like, "Bro, they caught us. Come outside." He's like, "Us? What do you mean us?"
Please, if the spirit of confession ever hits you, confess by yourself. You feel the guilt. I might still be working through my own guilt.
Honestly.
Don't tie us together. But that in the spirit of confession, this next story actually has that element in it. Because the guy got caught and then he said he was not me. He's not me alone. Anyway, let's move on to this story that's getting us into a conversation, a situation that happened in Delta State. So a 21-year-old girl and her boyfriend were caught and arrested for conspiracy to kidnap after she and the boyfriend faked a kidnapping and demanded a 2 million naira ransom from her parents. Now, they started making their ransom demands from the girl's grandfather, who said he only had 40,000 naira. Unsatisfied with that, they called her parents, insisting on the 2 million naira ransom until it was provided. But the case had already been reported to the police. The mother of the girl reported the case to the police. The public relations officer of the Delta State Police Command interviewed the mother, the girlfriend, and the boyfriend. Please, let's take a look.
I'm SP Dafe Bright, and this is Delta State Police Command. What we do is to bring you latest of happenings in Delta State that concerns crime and other related activities that you all learn from. Today we'll be parading a girl and a boy. She's 21 years. We'll find out the age of the boy very soon. She left the house on the 30th of December to go and visit the boyfriend. And when it's time for her to go back, the boyfriend was not having transport fare to give to her. And she sold the idea to the boyfriend. Why don't we call my parents and tell them that I have been kidnapped? They actually called the parents and demanded for 2 million naira. Even when the parents were begging for 100,000, they declined. 500,000, they declined until the parent decided to report to the police. We will first of all interview the mom, who is here to tell us the pain she went through over what her own daughter, did to her, after which we interviewed the two sons. But yeah, just tell us how she left the home and how they started calling you.
On 30th of December, she left saying that she wants to go make her hair to the next village. She didn't return home. On 31st, they called that she did not return. I went to the village. I made entry in police station Asaba. They started calling my daddy, making demand of money. How much can he offer? The man said he has 40,000, that he's a farmer. He does not have money. They cut the call. The next one they called, demanding for money, again, 2 million. He pleaded with them that he has only 100,000. They said 2 million or nothing.
Okay. So you reported first at the
Aokwibu police station.
Aokwibu police station. Okay. Okay, was it from there that the letter brought the mother to Auntie?
No, I came to report at this place.
Okay,
yes.
So that is the mother there speaking, laying a timeline for the situation. Then the boy and the girl, apparently the girl is named Princess and the boy is named Prince. The reactions on social media have just been ridiculous. But they're both named Prince and Princess. So she went to spend December 31st with her boyfriend.
Her prince.
He was like, oh, don't leave or leave with her prince. Yes, ma'am. And he was like, okay, so I don't have money for transport fare. He said that it was her idea. And in interviewing the girl, the police PRO of the Delta State Police Command confirmed that it was the girl's idea. So they interviewed them. She said it was her idea to extort her family, starting with her grandfather. Does she not realize her grandfather could have had a heart attack in hearing the news, being called and said, we have your granddaughter, if you don't give us 2 million naira, something's going to happen to her. So they first called the grandfather, who said he only had 40,000. Then they called the parents and asked for 2 million. The mother sort of talks to them and everything, but eventually they paid the 2 million, but she has reported the case to the police. Yeah. Let me tell you the kicker. The kicker is now, ask me how they wanted to split that money.
Oh, no.
It was her idea to call her parents and extort her family. She was going to give 500,000 and the boy was going to give 1.5 million.
And the boy says it was her idea.
Yes. And she was there and she said, yes, it was her idea.
All right. I think now I'm interested in the reactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
So let's take some reactions to this. What do we have?
God. I say this generation are a bunch of lazy humans who just want to sit and be receiving credit alerts without doing anything, like yesterday. Moral decadence in our society, who should be blamed, parents or children? May the Lord help us to teach our children good values and morals, also the act of contentment. If every single person is contented with what's given or what they have, they won't exhibit these acts of greed and irresponsibility. Haba, your own mama. So it gets when my mind, they tell me to try this thing. I can't ask myself, if mama get high BP, from there they go, waiting I go do. So the violence says these ones are not in the forest. That's why they were caught. The main forest trader, the main forex traders are roaming about.
No, he's right. Forest trader. I think he's alluding to maybe herdsmen or terrorists.
Okay, the main forest traders are roaming
in
about
the forest.
and can be paraded.
Yes.
So the question that one of them asked is actually very valid. Who do we blame for this? I remember one time, and I know that it's not always the case, but one of my church members then, I know they just called me and said, she's missing. I'm like, missing how? I saw her, I didn't know to go, then it was to go, and she was with her boyfriend, and they had traveled and all that. And again, I don't know how to keep a secret. So I went to the girl.
We can see.
So I went to their house, to solicit with them, try pretend like I'm looking for them. I just called my mom like, Mommy, this girl is not missing. So what do you mean? I'm like, she traveled with her boyfriend, and they said someone called them. I was asking for some money, and I went to them, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but your daughter is not missing. Wow. She traveled, and I saw it. Do you know what the woman told me? It's like, if you don't want to help me look for my daughter, please leave my house.
Because they'll think that she's trying to spoil her daughter's name.
And the fact that, and you know the funny thing, I was willing to show her the video, but she just did not. Maybe for some reason she didn't want people what people will say, what will happen after. So she did not want to know the truth. And then we left there, and on Sunday they came and started doing Thanksgiving. I kid you not. So it made me wonder. Do I even blame the child? Do I blame the mother who's trying to cover? Because obviously she was trying to cover her play.
Don't you guys remember a few months ago, I think it was Prince Muyiwa, the first PRO, he talked about the fact that many of the kidnappings that are reported, especially on social media, that when they investigate, they come to find out that some of them are fake. I'm not going to say a lot, but some of them are fake. And it's this kind of fake situation. Somebody even asked, my own question is, after the whole case, where will Princess go? The parents' house or the boyfriend's house? Because even the boyfriend, I'm not sure he's living alone. What if he's even living with his own family as well?
I think this kind of arrangement, I don't even think the guy is serious with her. I mean, if you're looking at the sharing ratio, I'm taking 1.5 million. Why? What risk are you bringing here? If you say it's the girl's idea, 500K, and she's getting 500K, or maybe you have, maybe you have taken advantage of the fact that this one, I can cower her or bully her into getting what I want to get in terms of percentaging. That's an aside.
But she's 21. By law, they are legal adults. Yeah. I don't know how far this case is going to go, because I'm very sure at this point there's some family begging now most likely involved, because as mad as her parents will likely be, are they mad enough to see their daughter go through the Nigerian justice system and probably get a Nigerian verdict and end up in a Nigerian jail? Most likely not. Not to say there are some people too on that Jew guys and their eyes are very sharp and clear. They won't mind. But at the end of the day, when you look at the whole situation, they are adults. They knew what they were doing was wrong. Maybe they didn't think the consequences would get to them. And this is why in some instances, I'll probably agree with psychologists and doctors who tell you that even if 18 is the legal age, at 18, even mentally, some people are not, you're not yet mature. So even 21, there's a lack of obvious maturity, a lack of ability to link the consequences, to even think about your own family. Is that how much love is doing you?
But again,
attention even on the part of the child.
again, I feel like there's a difference between youthful delinquency, because a lot of people want to blame it on youthful delinquency, but this is just outright wickedness. That thing that someone said, and I think Tolu also said, what if your grandfather had a heart attack? For God's sake, like, you are not even considerate enough to think, oh, what would happen to them if so and thing or so happens to me? Can we come up with that, even if you want to rob your parents?
I think children nowadays they have the tendency to be selfish and think only of themselves, like they are Gen Z, so they shouldn't be working as hard as. And then another thing is that probably you're looking at your parents are spending money, in your opinion, on things that are not as important as they deem it to be.
That's one.
And
But
so
two, you also know that they
that
don't have money. She should know that her grandfather doesn't have money.
Yeah, but she probably didn't think her grandfather would be the first one they would go to. She probably felt, okay, they would go to my mother or my father who has money, or my father has money, or is spending money on booze and other things that are irrelevant according to her. Or maybe the boy has...
I like this point you just made, because he also asked her who put her through school, her parents. Who's paying for her education now? Her parents. The guy said, if you were a parent later on and your child did this to you, how would you feel? Your parents would put you through secondary school and all. They're the ones putting you through school now, whatever it may be. I don't know if it's polytechnic or university. Yeah. They're putting you through school now, and you still have the audacity, the temerity, the stupidity, I don't know what other word to use, to go and want to extort them of $2 million. That $2 million was probably, okay, the $2 million they spent was probably meant for either her school fees, something for the family, most likely her junior ones, and then you want to collect $500,000. And one boy from somewhere is collecting 1.5.
How would you even spend? Look,
no, it would be on iPhone Pro something.
So,
it would be that.
So bring it home. How is she going to explain to her parents?
But you know, nowadays, and we've talked about it on this table.
I mean, the kidnapper gave her a name.
Parents are not even invested so much.
That is the problem.
Phone. Oh, I won it at something. Oh, somebody dashed me. Oh, I added money, and children now, imagine the tales that they have. Now, this entire thing reminds me of a report I covered. I think it was last year or 2 years ago, when a young man was confessing how he used one of his parents for rituals for 419.
Is that thing ever true?
Hold on, it's a report I covered, so yeah. And then he said that what made him choose the parents to do this ritual was that the one who has helped him the most between his mother and his father. His mother had always been there for him. His mother had done this, and his mother was the one to believe in him when his father didn't believe in him. So it was easy for him to use his father. I'm just telling you what was going on in that boy's mind. I think he was 19. What went on in his mind to use his father as ritual, as whatever ritual. So I'm saying that children will always pander to the parent who seems to care more for them or who seems to care less for them, however the case may be. So if you're going to demand for ransom, you say, let's ask my father. My father always uses money. He buys this, he buys that, he buys that. He doesn't care for us. So let's do this so we can task my father. Or vice versa, let's do this so we can task my mother because my mother does this and does that. So children who sit down and come up with these grandiose plans are the ones who have sat down and thought about it. They're not even thinking, they're looking. I always tell people, I say, some of these children are crying for attention. You just want attention. Let them focus on me. Let it be that I want them to pay this money, and then I'll be welcomed like a hero.
Like the prodigal son.
Yeah, Thanksgiving in church, and my child is... It's crazy.
But I appreciate this mother for reporting to the police. Because if she had not, they had paid the money, but they still reported to the police. The child will turn up, and all of this scenario you painted would likely have happened. Sure. It would be interesting.
Would she have reported if she knew it was her child, though?
She may not have. If she got information beforehand. Yes. Because, you know, oftentimes people think that their cases are their cases. In a lot of situations, particular crimes then become crimes against the state.
Yes.
And you don't have a hand in removing the case anymore, except you just don't make a witness or you don't make yourself available to the court, but they then become prosecutions of the state against the individual, not, you know, so
You don't
sometimes...
think that she would have gone to the police if she knew that this was...
No, she wouldn't.
I don't think so.
concocted?
But we need
I
to take a
don't
break
think so.
because we have a guest. We're going to take a quick break now. When Jasiri returns, we once again shine the spotlight on femicide. But make no mistake, femicide is not just a women's issue. It's a societal issue that demands urgent attention from every corner of our nation. It requires accountability from our justice system, proactive measures from policymakers, and a shift in societal attitudes towards gender-based violence. The founder of DOHS Cares Foundation, Ololade Ajayi, joins us after the break. Stay with us. This is Jasiri, where we confront the most pressing issues impacting our society. Now today, we tackle a deeply troubling and urgent topic, the rising cases of femicide in Nigeria. Across the nation, we are witnessing a disturbing increase in violence against women and girls, with many cases ending in the tragic loss of life. These crimes not only devastate families, but also expose the pervasive culture of misogyny, weak enforcement of laws, and a justice system that often fails victims. Why are these cases on the rise? What systematic gaps are enabling such heinous acts to persist? And how can we, as a society, take action to prevent more women and girls from becoming statistics in this harrowing epidemic? Joining us today is Ololade Ajayi. She's the founder of DOHS Cares Foundation, and she's going to help us unpack the root causes, the impact on communities, and the urgent steps needed to be taken to create a safer Nigeria for women and girls. This is a conversation we can't afford to ignore. Ololade, welcome to Jasiri. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Thank you. I love what you're wearing, by the way. Okay, so as 2025 started, right, your organization reported the number of, did a report on the number of women and girls that were killed last year.
Yes.
Now, you reported that no fewer than 133 women and girls were victims of suspected gender-related violence between January 1st, 2024 and December 31st, 2024.
Yes.
And this also includes 3-year-old Asiya, who was initially reported missing, but was later found dead in Bauchi State with some of her body parts allegedly removed. There's also Aminat, a 100-year-old woman. 100-year-old woman. Am I reading that wrong?
No, you're not.
My goodness. Who was killed by her 67-year-old son, Lukman Adejoju, during a dispute over the proceeds from palm oil sales. There was also 69-year-old widow Ifoma Ajuluchuku, who was brutally beaten until she fell unconscious while ill at home. There was also a newborn baby that was killed, as well as a 9-year-old Renaisa Sadiq, who was raped and killed by a pharmacy owner after her father took her to him for malaria treatment. There was also 24-year-old Priscilla Ocheme, who was found dead after visiting her male friend Ekuswe Elvis. The list goes on. There's usually a narrative when it comes to the issue of femicide and gender-based violence, and that's not an increase in the crime per se, but it's an increase in the reporting of deaths and stories. Now, based on the data here that I just read, are we seeing an increase in femicide cases in Nigeria?
I would say no. I'd rather say, like you said, that we're seeing an increase in reporting. Because of the fact that our organization, DOHS Cares Foundation, is now, keeping the data on this, tracking these cases, and, reporting it through our dashboard, it seems as if, oh my God, that's a lot of numbers. But it is not. And I also think that femicide is underreported in the country, especially in rural communities, whereby when death occurs, which is gender-related, they just report it as, they don't report, rather, they just, they treat it as if it's something in the family, like it's between husband and wife, it's domestic. So oftentimes, most is not reported. Also, even in Lagos State, we have treated cases whereby when we discovered there was a case of femicide, immediately, the man buried the wife immediately. Who are we to say you should go and exhume a corpse when the police did not see the correlation between the fact that there had been an history of domestic violence and the death of the woman? The man is walking free now. So I don't think there's an increase in femicide cases. It's mostly just an increase in reporting and the lack of database dashboard
is now evident that there's absolutely need to keep track of these cases. But while I would say maybe, you know, this deaths, these femicide cases, we discovered a lot in especially the Southwest and some parts of the East. I would say we've not even scratched the surface concerning places like the Northeast, the Northwest, because most of those cases that are actually femicide cases may be reported as banditry and kidnapping cases. But for instance, where a woman was kidnapped and because she refused to be raped, she was killed. That's a clear case of femicide because it is gender related. Yes. Because she refused to be raped or something she was kidnapped to be, you know, a weapon of war, which is related to the fact that she's a woman or a girl. It's a clear case of femicide. So oftentimes those are not reported as femicide cases. So I know that there are lots of femicide cases going on there, a lot of honor killings, a lot of gender-related killings. But that's not reported. So I would say the data that we have put out is probably about a quarter of the accurate cases. But the data that we have put out are the verified number of cases that we've tracked in the country in the year 2024 with the motive and the perpetrator-victim relationship, and you know that we can certify that there are clear cases of femicide.
I just have a simple, direct question. So with this data now in front of us, I'm interested to know who is doing the killings? You understand? Okay, we see femicide is on the rise, or it's underreported, not really on the rise, but it's troubling. As Blessings was going through the data, I was just cringing, and I'm like,
a newborn,
yeah,
a 9-year-old, like a 100-year-old woman.
What are we doing? Killed by your 67-year-old son because of what? So who is doing the killing?
Like we said, femicide is the intentional killing of women and girls, usually by men who are their intimate partner, boyfriend, husband. No, that's relative. Intimate partner, relative, or close acquaintances. Also, when we say intimate partner, we may mean that, you know, like people who solicit sex workers and for some reason kill them afterwards. So they're also classified as intimate partners, not just husbands or boyfriends.
But as long as there's been something intimate.
Yeah, okay. It's an intimate affair, sexual affair, they're regarded as intimate partners. And some of these cases are also cases that are ritual killings, but when there's a ritual killing and a genital of the woman or breast or genital is cut off, that means somebody needed the genitals of a female person. So it is gender related. There's a gender related motivation behind it. So it's classified as femicide.
And so we can see here from your foundation, the perpetrator relationship, the majority of them are intimate partner, but then there's acquaintance, there's boyfriend, there's son, there's husband, there's of course a known assailant, there's community resident, there's, wow. All I can just say is wow. But Ololade, looking at this in context of the Nigerian society, we have very patriarchal norms, we have traditional gender roles, and oftentimes, let's be honest, they can lend themselves to the subjugation of women. Stay silent, be submissive, be under a man, and those kind of things eventually are what we see as the foundation of a culture that enables femicide and enables sexual and gender-based violence. How do these deeply ingrained social attitudes towards women contribute to what we're talking about now? How do they, in a way, sort of sometimes, I would say, give men the impetus to think that they have, they are able to control the life and death of another human being?
Yes, definitely. Misogyny is at the root of femicide. That is a form of bias or discrimination against women. And the belief that the male gender is probably, you know, has some more...
It's superior.
It's superior to the female gender. Take, for instance, when Rebecca Chapajay died, when she was born to death in
Kenya.
In Kenya, you know, even international organizations, Nigerian government organizations, you know, they were making so much noise about it, like, oh my God. But then that same week, we discovered that Fatima also died in Kano. The same reason, but because of the fact that we are so numb, femicide is normalized in Nigeria to some extent. We don't, there was no furor about it. And Fatima's, a man was dating her for just 7 days and he proposed to her and she said no. It's like, who are you to say no to me? Like, I am a man. And he burnt her to death. And that's why we say that because of the fact that, like you said, our culture, it's so patriarchal, the Nigerian society is so patriarchal, femicide is usually normalized in the country. So many people, and there's a society, like, how would I even call it? Incels, involuntary celibates. These are people who believe that they are...
We have incels in Nigeria now.
Yes, it's a community of incels. People who believe that they are entitled to
access to women's bodies, to sex with women, to just women in general, that the women don't have a right to say no.
Yes. And immediately when you see a case of femicide or a case of sexual or gender-based violence posted on the internet, immediately you see them, they come up and they start saying, perpetrating all sorts of lies. I can remember when Osta died, Osta Osedion, that was killed by Benjamin Best. We just suddenly started seeing tweets saying that, oh, our father warned her not to follow this guy, but our mother, because of money and all that, which was a lie. Our father had died since how many years ago?
Yeah.
And they came with all sorts of, so they come to,
to muddy the waters, to smear the victims a lot of times.
So you don't even believe, and you don't even have sympathy for these victims. You believe that she deserves
that they inadvertently they quoted it.
Yes. So I would say toxic masculinity is a lot responsible for many of these cases of femicide. So we need to do a lot. We need to begin to have conversations to, especially young boys growing up, to let them know that, no, it's not true. And it starts from very little. The fact that, in fact, from birth, when, you give birth to a child and it's a female child and somebody says, why not a boy? It starts from very, because there's already a belief that, that boy child is better and he grows up with that. So he's already, so it's a lot. And there's a lot of unconscious bias. And when people tell me, oh, where's misogyny in Nigeria? It doesn't really exist. I'm like, it can be in very little examples whereby you see a woman driving, a man is equally driving rough next to you, and just because the woman drives that same way,
now woman.
So it starts from very little, but then it begins to grow and grow, and we need to stem it. We need to address that before we can even talk about prevention of femicide.
And I think that what did you call them, incels? Or
incels.
I think that because of the way we're, like you said, we need to teach the younger, because a lot of men, let me not say all, believe that, but maybe more subtle, right? You hear them say things like, oh, if women are not dressing for us, who are they dressing for? Yeah. The reasons you're wearing what you're wearing. And that's why you hear them say, oh, if you don't want us to look at you like that, why are you wearing what you're wearing? So all of that is, like you said, needs to be addressed. But the recent surge in the reports of women being brutally murdered across Nigeria has brought the term femicide to the forefront. But I think that is essential to clarify the distinction. I think you did explain femicide to an extent, but it's important to clarify the distinction between femicide and gender-based violence, because a lot of people might get it mixed up. Is it possible to explain the difference between these two terms, and how femicide in particular is a manifestation of the broader issue or broader societal issue of gender-based violence? Okay, so femicide is a form of gender-based violence, actually. It is the highest manifestation of gender-based violence. It is systemic violence done against these women, over a period of time. Femicide is not usually, especially in intimate partner violence, is not usually a one-time thing. It's usually a culmination.
It's a gradual
so, and that's how many people don't know about this, especially for pregnant women, for instance, and they just get pregnant and you hear that they just very little illness and they die. But this woman had been going through violence over time, but, she was fine until she got pregnant. Pregnancy is a very sensitive period for women. So the result of that violence may have just, now been evidence and trigger something when she was pregnant. And then it's just ruled off as, oh, she was pregnant and she died. It's pregnancy complication. But no, it is as a result of that femicide. So it's gender-based violence that is done over time is the highest implication or the result of gender-based violence. Like we're talking about earlier, the distinction between domestic violence and femicide, when does it cross the line? Yeah. The international classification of femicide says that when domestic violence occurs and there is either a weapon involved, now weapon might be gun, might be knife, might be machetes, might be anything that could fatally harm someone. When this domestic violence is done in a way that even if the woman does not die, that was intentionally done to kill her. Like, we are first responders to SGBV in our organization, and we've seen cases whereby a husband broke a bottle on the wife's head, and the wife almost, died bleeding. So that's we put up a bill that, classifies this as these men should be treated like as if they are femicide cases. I'm not sure I have lost track of your questions because of my examples. But yes, gender-based violence is basically violence done against the person because of their gender. And of course, femicide is intentional killing because of their gender. Like I was saying earlier about, when it crosses from domestic violence into femicide, when there is like maybe strangulation, that when it occurs during domestic violence, it can be said to be femicide. Yeah. That's a potential femicide case when somebody strangles the woman repeatedly during domestic violence. When there is presence of a weapon during domestic violence, or when there is a clear threat to life, when the man is saying, "I will kill you," threatening to burn the woman. That woman is a potential case of femicide. So there are many red flags to look for, whereby the case of domestic violence is actually already slipping into femicide cases.
But people don't take that seriously. You hear when people say, you hear your partner saying, "I will kill you. If you sleep in this house, I will kill you." They think it's,
it's words.
Yeah, they think it's just words. And you see someone, they go right back there.
So also talking about the red flags, sometimes it's like some of these men morph into, let me use the word monster, that they become because of some certain things, like the woman starts earning more than you, and then it just triggers this insecurity, and you become somebody that you never, maybe maybe it was there subtly, but you wouldn't know.
So, like the factors that for our organization that we tackle, how we tackle SGBV is we identify the factors that can trigger it, and for us, it's gender inequality, poverty, and illiteracy. Okay. So of course, yes, when the woman starts anymore in many relationships, the man feels threatened,
emasculated.
Yes, and that's just a result of toxic masculinity as well, like I said earlier. And but women have to look for these red flags, and that's why we are creating a lot of awareness. And the media calling it femicide, like you have done, is helping a lot, so that people know this sign, people know what to look out for. And once this begins to happen, we want them to be able to say, you know what, I have to live for my life. We have so many women who we rescued about 2 years ago, and it was because of Osinachi's case. When they now recognized and they said, "Oh my God, this man said what Osinachi's husband said, and he's going to kill him." And then
so that's a trigger for them.
Yes. So and that was when they left. We have cases. We're still going on with some, even in stations and in court, where they said, "Why did you decide to leave after so many years of this thing?" And they said, "Oh, because you said strangulation is part of the signs of this, and that this man had been strangling them." And then that was when they knew that.
Okay, Ololade, let's take a quick break here, because when we talk about factors, we also need to make sure we're talking about the legal side of things. We're talking about cases that are still in courts. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are still walking free after having taken the life of women and girls here in Nigeria in femicide cases. We'll also look at the impact of femicide on families and communities. Stay with us.
All right, you're watching Jasiri. You're still watching Jasiri. Please join the conversation via our social media platforms. We are at News Central TV. So our focus today has been on a pressing issue that demands our attention and our action, and that's the rising cases of femicide here in Nigeria. It's a deeply troubling reality that underscores the vulnerabilities faced by women across the country, and these heinous acts not only devastate families but also reflect deeper societal issues, gender inequality, inadequate protection for women, and systemic failures in our justice system. Our guest is Ololade Ajayi. She's the founder of DOHS Cares Foundation, a non-governmental organization dedicated to combating gender-based violence and monitoring cases of femicide. So, Ololade, we know there's underreporting when it comes to gender-based violence and crimes and femicide, and possible, of course, mislabeling of other crimes that should be labeled as femicide. We're having conversation, during the break, and we're talking about, and really underreporting or cases or traits or characteristics that women usually take for granted, which shouldn't be the case. From the minute you notice, and there are always red flags, aren't they? Mm-hmm. There are always red flags. So there you have underreporting. We have many cases of femicide which go unresolved. There are perpetrators escaping justice. The data you gathered further showed that while there are police commands where incidents occurred have apprehended some of the perpetrators, suspects, the majority of those responsible for these crimes are still walking free. So what are the main challenges facing law enforcement? Because it's not something that we can do by ourselves. We can try as family units to do that, but what challenges do law enforcement face? That's number one. And the judiciary also in addressing, if any. I mean, does the judiciary take it as seriously as they're supposed to take it, or they also are facing some challenges? So there's two questions in one. Okay. Law enforcement, what are the challenges? The judiciary, what are their challenges, if there are any? And then the key weaknesses in the Nigerian judiciary systems that allow these perpetrators evade accountability.
Okay, thank you for that very important question. I think that they both face the challenge of not acknowledging this crime as femicide. Mm-hmm. When you do not acknowledge that something is a problem, I don't think there's any way you can solve it. Like, for instance, when we wrote to, we submitted a proposed bill on femicide, and we submitted to the Lagos State House of Assembly and also the National Assembly. And Lagos State House of Assembly wrote us back to say that there's already a law on domestic violence and murder, and that's homicide in general, and so there is no need for a law on femicide because that's like tautology. And then we wrote back to say, you know what, we're coming for a demonstration because it seems as if you do not know what femicide is. Yeah. Femicide is a distinct form of gender-based violence, and it's not just domestic violence, and it's not just murder, because women who are killed because of Eba. Yes. Because, I mean, look at there's one of the women that we discovered on Christmas Eve in Ebonyi State. Her husband killed her because he brought out yam and he wanted her to cook it. And she's like, no, let's roast it instead. She wanted it to be roasted, and he beat her up till she died. How can you say that even if this person is tried for murder, this woman cannot get justice yet because you've not addressed, the gender-related motive behind that, the inequality, the stereotypes and the roles that society has placed on these women that makes them, vulnerable to this crime. Yeah. And so we have said that the laws on domestic violence or murder does not address the crime of femicide. Yeah, and oftentimes, if you look, for instance, we're in court on Bamishe's case, Bamishe, who was killed in 2022 February in the BRT bus in Lagos. And, this crime has been, they've been in court since that 2022. This is 2025. We're still in court getting adjournment and adjournment, whereas it's a clear case of femicide, which should be expedited. You've known that this is a crime that's of femicide. Just keep them the ruling because you're dragging the family even through, already they're going through trauma, and it's a prolonged grief syndrome that they're going through right now. And that's one of the things that we're doing on DOHS Yes Foundation, that this year we're going to be mentoring the economic and mental impact of femicide, especially on this family. We have families of victims that said, I think it was Augusta's brother, that mother said, if you remember, Benjamin Best ran away to Sierra Leone, and the brother had to travel to Sierra Leone.
So he confessed on social media.
And he's still at large.
And
He's still at large.
While he's
Escape
still
at
at
the end
large,
of
he's
the
still
day.
posting.
Yes.
He has another girlfriend, does he not?
Yes, he's still posting. The mother said he's somewhere in Asia. They know where he is. So she said the brother that, you know, there are only two that went to trace him. He refused to barb his hair since then. He does not even go out. Imagine the mental impact of that. So law enforcement, the police has to, you know, criminalize this. They have to know that femicide is this on its own. We have to have officers who are trained to identify this. Once a woman dies and is on natural means, they have to, you know, investigate for the crime of femicide. Also, the judiciary also has to, you know, there has to be laws on femicide that they have to, you know, follow for these cases. There has to be expedited trials of perpetrators of femicide. And when, you know, they begin to make examples of these perpetrators, that's the only way that this crime can, you know.
Yes, which is.
Okay, we don't have a lot of time, and there are two specific questions I want us to get to. One of Catherine's questions, you talked about poverty earlier, and I think I want us to focus quickly on that because we've seen the rising number of Nigerians who have fallen into poverty. And there's data that shows that there is a direct correlation between poverty and domestic violence as well as femicide. So in terms of that research, it also looks at femicide as an often overlooked consequence of poverty as well. So what is it that we know about poverty and the link to gender-based violence and femicide here in Nigeria?
Okay, a lot of Nigerian women are not empowered, and it stems from, number one, lack of education for the girl child in so many places. An uneducated girl is probably going to fall victim to child marriage, and is probably going to fall victim to, you know, the cycle of poverty at the end of the day. So we have to concentrate more efforts on ensuring that every girl child is educated, and on empowering women and girls, the ability to be able to, you know, stand on their own and thrive. Those are some of the things that makes them, you know, less vulnerable to abuse. And also, I don't know if I can talk about support system. There has to be enough support system for these women and girls when they are going through all these violence issues to know that when, you know, there's somewhere that I can be. There are only about 4 shelters in Lagos State, and I tell you that they are overwhelmed, even the government owned and the private ones. So many of them, so many times that we have cases of domestic violence. These women have to go back to these places because, you know, the shelter is full. They don't have anywhere to go. And they are most likely going to be victims of femicide. And probably these women are, you know, empowered to be able to, you know, leave abusive places on their own. You know, they can thrive economically. They will probably not be victims of femicide.
And then also their girls and their boys who will, in unfortunate situations, perpetrate the cycle of what they've seen, and the girls becoming victims in the future. That can also be changed. Do we have time for that very last question? Everybody's okay at this?
I know.
So we're told we have 3 minutes. We need the question in like 10 seconds and the answer in about less than a minute.
Okay, so let me try and... the major question here is how can men be included in conversations and initiatives to prevent violence against women? Women and girls are losing their lives. I'm not saying that there's no violence against men, but the statistics show that women suffer it more. Women, they always see women as a weaker vessel, and so it's as though it's either the men are perpetrating it, or men are enabling it, or men don't care about it. So how can men be more involved in you know, we're talking about educating women, empowering women. How can men be educated about this?
Okay, we need more men to speak up. We need more male allies in public awareness, in the education. We need them to speak up to say, you know what, men, we are responsible for this. The onus of responsibility is not on the victim to, you know, go this place, wear this. The onus is on the responsibility. The onus of responsibility is on abusers to stop abusing. So we need more men to speak up to, you know, mentor young boys in order not to follow these lines of toxic masculinity. We need them to tell their peers about it. We need them to be safe spaces for women and girls.
Absolutely.
Ololade Ajayi, founder DOHS Cares Foundation, thank you so much for joining us on Jasiri today. Really, we appreciate it. This is not a conversation about statistics. It is a conversation about lives lost, families shattered, and a society in need of healing and change. So the fight against femicide requires everyone's participation: government, law enforcement, community leaders, and each and every one of us. We hope that today's discussion serves as a call to action. We must challenge harmful norms, demand justice for victims, generally create a society where women feel safe, valued, and protected. Please stay engaged, amplify these conversations, and remember, change begins with awareness, but it is sustained through action. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.